If you would open your Bibles, Matthew chapter 11, beginning with verse 28 through verse 30, and I'm reading from the Message version of Scripture. And you'll notice these words, Matthew chapter 11, verse 28 through 30. Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. And I want to talk today from the subject, divine calibration. Divine calibration. There are various things in our life that can get us out of sync with who we are and what we're born for and what we're called to do. Oftentimes, this disconnect comes because people start living according to how they were raised and not how they were made. And it creates a conundrum in our own personal identity of who we are as human beings when you start living in a way that is incongruent to the way that God made you and designed you to be. And whenever you are dealing on a road and you start having bumps, it starts knocking the vehicle out of alignment. And every now and then you have to be recalibrated. Every 6 months you're supposed to take your wheels and have them rotated on your car and balanced. And when you don't, you start getting the shakes. And when you find people that need to be calibrated, they become irritable, short, mean-spirited, impatient, argumentative, fussy. And these are signs that they have lost their calibration and they need time away to become recalibrated. And you see, you can't go to the wrong source of something that is not calibrated at the right pace itself. And so this is why if a person turns to drugs or alcohol, it doesn't have the right calibration. And then it's so short-lived. And it then leaves you at a lower place than where you started. And there are so many things that can rob you of your calibration with God. When you deal with cantankerous people, difficult people, challenging people, folks that just won't follow the rules. I mean, it just what part of what I said that you don't understand? And it starts vexing something in your soul when you deal with people and you're in a relationship with somebody that it's like, how many times have we had this discussion? And it throws your calibration off. Because if somebody else's life is at a bad vibration and then they get in the car with you, then they mess up your vibration, your calibration. When you're attached to people and your children do things that just get up underneath your skin and they call you from the school. And now it messes up your calibration. Because now when you come to rest, you're thinking about, is that child crazy? Have they lost their mind? And see, and then it starts throwing your calibration. You can't even rest. You just get up and just start walking. Just wait. Whatever time, I'm gonna wait till they get home. Your calibration has already been messed up. And Jesus is saying, are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Has life just sort of sucked the life out of you? You've been on so many roller coasters because you get in a relationship with this one and then you discover their insanity. Then you get out of that one and find another one, and then you find their insanity. And then so Jesus said, are you worn out? Because you get a job over here, and you go over here, and you thought that this was going to be the ideal thing, and then you get over there, and you discover there are issues here because they're people. And so he says to you, are you worn out? Are you burned out? You're tired of religion? He says, you need to get away with and take a real rest. Because our souls become weary. And so as we calibrate ourselves divinely to the Spirit of God, He helps us to get on His rhythm. Rhythm is a strong, regular, repeated pattern. That's what rhythm is. It's a strong, regular, repeated pattern. The first thing in reading music is to notice the time signature that helps us to understand the rhythm. You know the moment that you look at a time signature, whether you're dealing with a waltz or not, because it's indicated in the time signature that gives you somewhat of the rhythm. And they'll have a value for a particular note that helps the metronome keep the steadiness of the beat of the song so that you know exactly what tempo it's supposed to be. And changing the tempo changes the mood. So a song that's supposed to be upbeat and then you're dragging it, it just messes it up. It's like, it's not supposed to be that slow. And a slow song that's sped up, it messes up the mood. I mean, you don't want to listen to Luther and speed it up. You know, take your time. It's mellow, chill. You have to know when you're listening to certain kinds of music, and if you speed it up, you mess the tempo, you change the whole mood. And this is what happens when you get with people that then start speeding up your tempo of something that is supposed to be even keel. It's supposed to have a steadiness in the rhythm of life. And when you get with people who are already messed up in their minds and they have lost, they are rushed, they are hurried, they are tired, they're busy, they're scattered in 1,000 different directions, they've got ADD, and they can't even sit down and listen to you because they are, and see, just trying to follow people with ADD messes up your calibration. You got to be able to find a time to connect with God. When Jesus is saying, are you tired? Are you worn out? You burned out on religion? He says, come to me. Come with me. Come to me and come away with me. And then he says, and you'll recover your life. You have to understand which stage of life that you're in to understand the rhythm that you're supposed to be. I don't expect a 3-year-old to have the same rhythm of somebody 83. You have to learn the rhythm of where you are. And if you don't learn how to slow your pace down as you age, because I know what you used to be able to do, and then you're going to try to drop it like it's hot, and then when you try to pick it up, something has slipped out of place, and you used to drop it like that all the time when you were younger, and now the disc has slipped because you have to change your pace. You have to change your pace according to the stage of life where you are. You don't keep the same pace on flat land as you do when you're climbing a hill. You have a different pace. See, so when you're going up the hill, you know, there's a different pace when you're climbing that you have to be able to calibrate yourself to if you're going to last. Because if you're just trying to do everything so quickly, you will mess up the whole rhythm of your life, and then you'll find yourself hyperventilating because your pace was off. And older people don't rush because they have figured out the pace. And one thing, they don't have the wind that they used to have. And you get you can tell how young a person is by what they take two of, pills or stairs. And you have to learn the pace of your life. It is the pace that gives you the endurance to be able to finish your course. And so grandma may not move as rapidly as you do, but she knows how to last. She can outlast you, and then folks are just running and running and ripping and running and doing all of this, then they burn up and wind up with a heart attack and with a stroke and with an aneurysm, and grandma's still getting up and cooking her breakfast, having her cup of coffee, looking at her newspaper, taking her time knitting, crocheting, whatever she wants to do, working her crossword puzzles. She's still doing her stuff because she's figured out her pace. If you want to last, you got to be able to find your pace, and you can't keep running. You got to realize, I'm not 16 anymore. You know, so it's a difference between being 16 and being 56, 66 and 76. There's a different pace in life. There's a different pace. Now, your 76 might be faster than somebody else's 76. And it's good to find your pace, find your rhythm, and then move with that so that your life can stay calibrated to who and how God made you to be. But human beings, do you know that we cannot even walk a straight line without having a visual point of reference? If you blindfold a human being will eventually start walking in circles. If he's blindfolded, if she's blindfolded, they start walking in circles. So if you live your life without vision, if you live your life without a dream of something that you're looking for, it's that dream that keeps you on the straight and narrow. No wonder people that don't have a dream or a vision are at the same place in their life. 10 years ago, and they're still at that same place emotionally. They still haven't matured. They still haven't learned. They're still in the same place. You know why? Because they don't have a visual point of reference. They don't have a vision. They don't have a dream. They don't have goals that produce focus in their life. And so they're walking around in circles. They're walking around in circles. You went to high school with them, and they still treat you as though you're the same person who's in high school. Listen, I'm grown now. I've got children. My children are grown now. I'm not that same dude. I've got different issues on my mind right now. I'm working on something. I'm not in that place any longer. But there are other folks that don't have any vision or anything that they're working on. They're still in the same place emotionally, still playing the same games that they used to play, still haven't matured. You don't mature just because you get old and your belly gets, your waistline expands and your hair turns gray or turns loose. That's not the thing that determines maturity in a person. And so it's when you actually have something that you're looking for, that you're looking toward. You've got to have a visual point of reference, a dream, a goal, a vision in your life that gives you the capacity to walk the straight and narrow. When you take your eye off of that, you start walking in circles. Your life goes in circles, and you find people that were still borrowing $5 or $20. Let me hold $20. 20 years down the road, they're still trying to get their $20 from you. They're still in that same place. They're still in that same place. They were hooked on a substance then. They still on the bottle now. They were still, they're still struggling with the same issues. You know why? They've never had any vision. They got blindfolds. They're going through life with blindfolders, and they're walking around in circles. The children of Israel that came out of Egypt, they walked around in circles for 40 years because they had no vision of the promised land. They had no vision of what Canaan looked like. They didn't know what it looked for. The only two men that made it were the two men that saw Canaan, and they brought the fruit of the land back, Joshua and Caleb. They were the only two that came out of Egypt originally that entered into that new land because they're the only one that knew what it looked like. When you don't have vision, you can't help but to walk around in circles so many years of your life, and that's why you got to have a visual point of reference, and you've got to be able to have the pace that is sustainable. Because you can't start off running, doing something. You have to ask yourself the question, is this pace sustainable? Because I want to go the distance. And if you have an unsustainable pace, you will run fast, you will burn brightly, but you won't burn long. And we want to be able to finish well. We want to finish well. We want to be able to endure. When you endure to the end, that's when you get a crown of life. And the only way to endure to the end is to pace yourself for the journey. Part of your pace is knowing what, from a dietary standpoint, that you can handle and what you can't. You can't still be down there 65 years old, eat at the varsity with 2 chili dogs and onion rings and what's the orange thing called? That frosty thing, yeah, you know what it is. You can't be eating like that and then going home and then say, oh, Lord, I know I shouldn't have had both of them chili dogs. Your stomach is all torn up. You have to know your pace. You have to know your pace. Know your pace. And the thing that helps you to know your pace is to know the place where you're going, how much farther on the journey. That I want to do this for a long time. If you want to do something for a long time, you got to build for longevity. You got to be able to build this thing for longevity. And so whenever you find people when their life gets in a funk, and they're just in a point of malaise in their life, and you can't get them motivated. You talk to them. I mean, I've seen some people with their children. It's like, I don't know what's wrong with that boy. I don't know what's wrong with that girl. I'm not going to try to tell her what you need to do and everything. She just sort of just nonchalantly, just, you can't even motivate them. They're in a funk. And oftentimes, it's because they are out of sync with who they are and what they're doing, and they don't see the vision. They've got blindfolders on. They got blindfolds on their eyes, and it causes them to walk around in the same old place, not making any advancement. They're just going around in circles. You can't walk straight and make advancement one foot in front of the other until you're doing that. And you see, we get burned out because we over-inundate our minds with being online all of the time with news from around the world, not just in America, but around the world. We know every time that Japan has an earthquake. We know every time that there's trouble down in Africa. If something is happening in Somalia, we see it on our news. If something is happening in the Middle East, if something is happening in South America, we get the news. And we're online 24/7. We're getting notifications of every time somebody responds to a picture that we put on Facebook, to a tweet, to something on Snapchat, to a picture that you post on Instagram. And we're getting notification after notification, and we just always, we have to stop and see and we're so possessed. You think bings because you got a new message, an email that's coming in. And we act as though we won money. You haven't won anything, you've been distracted. And it's everybody else's notification then becomes your priority. And you lose sight of what you're working on. And it throws your rhythm off. And so we have too many digital distractions with all of the notifications, and our souls are overloaded with information because we've got too many choices. We've got too many cable stations. I don't know about you, but you're like 500 or more stations. It's amazing. How in the world do you choose? I mean, when I grew up, we had ABC, CBS, NBC, and CNN, the Turner Broadcasting. We had about 4 good choices. And those turned off at 11 o'clock. And I love it when, it seems so early to me now, but they used to have a public service message that came on and said, it's 9 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? Now your children is still at home getting ready to go out. But we got too many radio stations, too many website options, too many apps that are available out there, too many magazine options, too many book options. We've got too many payment options, too many food options, restaurant options, too many shopping options. If you can't sleep at night, you can go online and go shopping. We call it retail therapy. It's amazing. It's amazing. Now, properly used, it's the best thing since sliced bread. It's best, but you have to be able to set limitations. You have to draw lines and create limits for yourself so that you don't overload your soul and inundate yourself with too much information that you're not designed to be able to process and know and carry. I'm not that important. I don't need to know everything that's going on all over the world and what's happening inside of somebody else's colon. I just don't, it's just too much information for me to handle. I can't process all of that and then still be able to go home and rest and rebuild and renew. It throws my equilibrium off. I lose my equanimity in life. It messes up my calibration with God. I had a pastor that said, Bishop, you don't seem to get caught up in everything that's going on in our world. He says, you seem to have such peace. And that could be a different thing, and you haven't heard about this? And I'm like, no. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay. And they said, you don't Google your own name to see what people are saying about you? I'm like, I know who I am. Why would I be concerned? What other people think about me is none of my business. But I like to look at it this way, that I listen to the beat of a different drummer. I listen to the beat of a different drummer. But we have such a rushed pace in our lives nowadays, such a rushed pace. Everything is faster and faster, and to them, faster is better. Speed, more speed. We set goals that this week we want this to be faster, and this to be faster, and this to be faster, and we've got everything so fast. Our modes of transportation so fast, but sometimes fast messes up our equilibrium. They had a Concorde, that used to go from New York over to England in a fraction of the time that it takes on a traditional plane, maybe traveling 600 or 700 miles an hour. This one went 1,500 miles an hour and break the sound barrier, and it creates a sonic boom. And you're just moving so rapidly, and we have an infatuation with speed, instant this. But may I just tell you this, anybody who's old enough to know what the old-fashioned stuff tastes like. This instant stuff cannot compare. I'm just, you know, I mean, instant grits and instant coffee and instant potatoes. Now, I'd like to see a grandmama with meat hanging off of her arms mashing the potatoes. Oh, my goodness. You know, oh, yeah. Old-fashioned potatoes, mashed potatoes. Not some type of science experiment that you add water to. And the old-fashioned way is just, you can't get these little Teflon pans and think that you know how to fry chicken when grandmama had a big black skillet. Her skillet was seasoned. You can't even just run down to the store and just get any kind of skillet and think your chicken is going to taste like grandmama's chicken. Her skillet was seasoned. You can't imitate that taste overnight. Anybody know what I'm talking about? I mean, you got to have your skillet seasoned. See, it takes time. You can't rush that. You can't put a little salt and pepper on it, roll it, and then put it in a little Teflon, and you think you can come out with grandma's chicken. No. It's more than just the seasoning. It's that this thing has been conditioned by being in the fire many times. And it's got, you know what, man, I'm telling you, you find grandmama's skillet, so much grease has gone through that, and salt and pepper and all of that stuff. Some of that stuff gets caught in the pan. It just gets caught in the pan. So, and that's why your food doesn't taste like grandma's food. When you come home, you stand up in the kitchen trying to watch what she's doing. But her utensils are seasoned. They've gone through the process of time. It's been properly paced over time. It's gone through a process. And that affects the flavor of everything that you experience. And so it's different when we're in a rushed and a hurried world that's always wants everything so quickly. They want quick responses, instant message this, direct that, instant this, instant that, and speed, super speed. Everything is about speed. We sell things with speed. We want more speed. We want faster internet. We want faster everything, faster, speed. And then our lives become so rushed and hurried in the process that we lose the tranquility of our souls. So we have to listen to the beat of a different drummer. We've got to stop letting the world set a pace for us that causes us to lose our peace. The world has set a pace for us that has caused us to lose our peace. It really has. I want to just show you the difference between the speed back in 1950 and today. Take a look at your monitors.
But Holland comes in for a pit stop. Time to refuel and change tires. Lou Moore himself changes the tires. Only 4 crew members, including the driver, are allowed to work on the car. It's a tense time. Holland stays in his seat, anxious to get away. Let's watch.
Now they're changing 4 tires. 1950. The good old days, happy days. And they are flying in their own minds.
Tires are changed at last. A crewman polishes the windshield as Holland moves away just 67 seconds after he stopped.
Now let's see how they do it today, how long it takes. You see the difference? See the pace of 1950 and the pace of the 2000s? You see how rapidly they jack that car up and hand those wheels off and new wheels on? You see the difference in pace? Now it's progress. And I'm not against speed. We need speed, but then after you've dealt with speed, you need calibration. You need calibration because we've got such high speed that now when we go to drive, our steering wheels are vibrating and the cars are vibrating, and we've got nervous disorders, and we're taking stuff to keep us from shaking, and now we've got to try to take stuff to help us to sleep, to calm us down because of all of the activity of stuff that's going on here, and it's got us going here, and we've lost our calibration with all of the speed because we've got this, the demands that are coming from the office, and their demands that's coming from the one that you're in a love relationship with, and their demands that are coming from the children that depend upon you, and from the neighbors of whom you live in community with. And so all of these demands, they start making so much stress on you that we lose our calibration. We lose our calibration. And so it's time to just slow down and get calibrated to God's agenda. I love something that Henry David Thoreau said. He said, if a man does not keep pace with his companions, perhaps it is because he hears a different drummer. And it says, let him step to the music which he hears, however measured or far away. He hears a different drummer. And see, we who are saved, we are not like those who have no hope. We can't live like the world, because when we live like the world, we're going to be on Prozac and all of this other kind of high-powered medication that affects the clarity of our minds and is making our bodies toxic, just trying to be able to function. We're on so many digestive stuff and nervous stuff and stress disorder medications in America. And this stuff has created all kinds of back issues and neck issues for us because our lives have lost their calibration. And you're wondering, what in the world is wrong with me? Why can't I sleep at night? Why is it that my mind is still going? I'm sitting in a chair, but my mind is still going. And people in the hospital, their mind is still going. And they have to almost be put out through the aid of drugs, alcohol, self-medicating. It's time for us to slow down and get calibrated to God's agenda.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner. Join us again next time for Power for Living, where revelation is power. Power for living.